There is a war going on out there. Easy versus difficult, hardcore versus casual. How challenging should a game really be? Before I tell you more about the difficulties with game difficulty, if you enjoy my videos, please hit subscribe and consider giving me some feedback. I really appreciate both. Whether you are a shooter fan or prefer RPGs, you are a gamer. But where do you draw the line? Is someone that breeds dragons or crushes candies on their phone also a gamer? The rift inside the player base gapes wider and wider. Hardcore gamers are so into their hobby that developers like Overwatch's Jeff Kaplan actually open up to the public, explaining that they are downright afraid of their own communities. On the other side of the gap, the gigantic group of every now and then players. Nowadays, smartphones are everywhere, and with this big market comes big money. Studies show that casual gamers are responsible for a lot of revenue, because they have less problems swiping their credit cards to stay relevant. There is, of course, a big neutral mass, but that doesn't make the problem for the gaming companies any smaller. Three groups with different visions of the perfect game. Tough audience. In the end, every company has to pick one of three options: extreme handholding, multiple difficulty levels, or actually turning the challenge into a feature, like for example From Software does. Multiple difficulties require the most work and are therefore the least profitable. And now let's be honest for a second. Would you prefer making a game for critical hardcore gamers with big expectations? Or does a huge group of casuals willing to pay for a less polished product sound better? It's not a nice thought for true fans, but it's understandable, isn't it? Picking a target audience, and therefore a difficulty level, even affects on which platform you'll play the game. PCs are jacks of all trades, and most households own at least one. It's not unusual for an idle clicker to share a desktop with an insanely difficult rage game. There's a PC game for pretty much everyone. Any modern AAA title, though, will demand a lot of processing power, which costs a pretty penny. What do you think? Who is more likely to pay for such a high-end PC? Correct, not the casual players. On the other end of the spectrum are the smartphones, with gaming apps that are meant to draw you to the little screens frequently, but only for short amounts of time. Real gamers tend to turn their nose up at that. And then there are the consoles. Usually, it would be unthinkable to put PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo machines into the same category. But here, it works. Exclusive games are a draw for hardcore gamers, while couch co-op and the comparatively low price makes them interesting for even the most casual. Consoles are simply for everybody. That said, gaming for everybody is a rather new concept. When video games were still in their infancy, they were the opposite of accessible. Barely any UI, and text-based doesn't exactly scream mainstream, does it? The industry evolved since then, and with growth came diversity. Gaming is no longer exclusively about having fun. On the contrary, take Hellblade for example, that deals with deep psychological issues. And then there are of course the games that make your life as difficult as possible, and not only get away with it, but instead sell like hotcakes. Just look at rage game Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, where you're tasked with getting over a trash mountain while seated in a cauldron and only having a sledgehammer as a lever. Its whole purpose seems to be to infuriate the player, and its own developer actually confirmed this. Why would anyone want that? And yet, gamers ate it up, and it's by far not the only game that turns its difficulty into a selling point. Winning is an amazing feeling, right? So why do we enjoy games that make us lose over and over again? Let me ask you a question. What is more rewarding? A victory that you had to earn, or one that was handed to you? I don't think it will be the latter. There has to be the possibility of losing to truly feel victorious. Games overall have gotten easier, but difficulty is experiencing a renaissance, as games like the recently released Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice prove. Every mistake results in your character dying. But in turn, every boss you bring down with superior tactic and skill will make you feel like you're on top of the world. In a way, gamers are masochists. And that's okay. For me, the option to fail, to prove yourself, actually elevates games over other types of media. A book won't suddenly ask you to give a characterization of the protagonist. And if you can't, snap shut. A song won't stop playing if you can't remember its lyrics. Games challenge you. That's their unique thing. And I think we should embrace that. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope your day's as good as gold. See you next time.